let's see. Events at Kadesh. In the first month, the whole community of Israel came to the wilderness of Zin and camped at Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. There was no water where they camped, so the people gathered around Moses and Aaron and complained. It would have been better if we had died in front of the Lord's tent along with the other Israelites. Why have you brought us out into this wilderness, just so that we can die here with our animals? Why did you bring us out of Egypt into this miserable place where nothing will grow? There is no grain, no figs, no grapes, no pomegranates. There is not even any water to drink. Moses and Aaron moved away from the people and stood at the entrance of the tent. They bowed down with their faces to the ground, and the dazzling light of the Lord's presence appeared to them. So it's been like 37 years since Israel first left Egypt, and the Bible is virtually silent about those 37 years of aimless wandering. You know, they left Egypt, they went to the Mount Sinai, they stayed there for about a year, a little bit over a year, and then they sent the 12 scouts. They traveled for a few months. They sent the 12 scouts, came back. So it's been about a year and a half, close to 2 years. And then the Bible doesn't say nothing about the next 37 years. So the Bible is pretty silent about that. So now the generation of those who had lived in Egypt had almost died off, and the new generation would soon be ready to enter the land. Moses, Aaron, Joshua, and Caleb were among the few who remained from those who left Egypt. So only a few of them were left. And once again, they camped at Kadesh, the site of the first scouting mission. Okay, when they sent the 12 scouts, it ended in disaster. Now, now what we just read right now, is that after 37 years, the Israelites forgot that their wanderings were a result of their parents and their own sin. So they could not accept the fact that they had brought the problems on themselves. So they blame Moses for their condition. Let's continue. The Lord said to Moses, "Take the stick that is in front of the covenant box, and then you and Aaron assemble the whole community. There in front of in front of them all, speak to that rock over there, and water will gush out of it. In this way sorry, I got to go back right here. I want to mention something I mentioned this a couple of days ago, but I just want to reiterate and read it again because there's a couple of things to glean out of this. The Lord said to Moses, "Take the stick that is in front of the covenant box. Now, and then you and Aaron assemble the whole community." Now, I mentioned to you before that this shepherd stick or staff is not the one that Moses had back in Exodus 17 when he struck that rock for water at Rephidim, the place called Rephidim before they got to Mount Sinai. It's a different one. This stick was the one that Aaron had. It was Aaron's that God told them to put in front of the covenant box. It's the one that sprouted those almond buds that we read about yesterday. So this is a different stick. Does it matter? It could, because before the Lord had told Moses to strike the rock and water would come out. That was about 39 years before. Now, the Lord's going to tell Moses to go to the rock, not say anything to the people or nothing at all, just go to the rock and speak to the rock. But instead, Moses goes, yells at the people, and then strikes the rock twice with his staff, which again, the Bible doesn't, but it says it right here. But the thing that glares very, very strongly is that this is Aaron's staff, because God told Moses and Aaron to put that stuff in front of the covenant box. So it does have some kind of significance there. So I'll continue now. There in front of them, speak to that rock over there, and water will gush out of it. In this way you will bring water out of the rock for the people, for them and their animals to drink. Moses went and got the stick as the Lord had commanded. He and Aaron assembled the whole community in front of the rock. And Moses said, "Listen, you rebels, do we have to get water out of this rock for you? Then Moses raised the stick and struck the rock twice with it, and a great stream of water gushed out, and all the people and animals drank. But the Lord reprimanded Moses and Aaron. He said, "Because you did not have enough faith to acknowledge my holy power before the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land that I promised to give them." This happened at Meribah, where the people of Israel complained against the Lord, and where he showed them that he is holy. So, the Lord had told Moses to speak to the rock, right? However, Moses struck it, not once, but twice. God did the miracle, but Moses took credit for it when he said, "Must we bring you water from this rock?" For this, he was forbidden to enter the promised land. Now, people think, was God's punishment for Moses too harsh? After all, the people had nagged him, slandered him, and rebelled against him, and God now, you know, they were complaining against them and God. Now they were at it again. But Moses was the leader and the model for the entire nation. Because of this great responsibility to the people, he could not let off lightly. So by striking the rock, Moses disobeyed God's direct command and dishonored God in the presence of his people. Let's go to 14. Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. They said, "This message is from your kinsmen, the tribe of Israel. You know the hardships we have suffered. Now our ancestors went to Egypt, where we lived many years. The Egyptians mistreated our ancestors and us, and we cried to the Lord for help. He heard our cry and sent an angel who led us out of Egypt. Now we are at Kadesh, a town at the border of your territory. Please permit us to pass through your land. We and our cattle will not leave the road or go into your fields or vineyards, and we will not drink from your wells. We will stay on the main road until we are out of your territory." But the Edomites answered, "We refuse to let you pass through our country. If you try, we will march out and attack you." The people of Israel said, "We will stay on the main road, and if we or our animals drink any of your water, we will pay for it. All we want is to pass through." The Edomites repeated, "We refuse," and they marched out with a powerful army to attack the people of Israel. Because the Edomites would not let the Israelites pass through their territory, the Israelites turned and went another way. Now, some people wonder, why did God not let the Israelites battle the Edomites? He could have taken them on with God's help in a heartbeat. The situation was that the Edomites were Israelites' relatives. Remember I mentioned the other day, through Esau, you have Jacob and Esau. Jacob's descendants are the 12 tribes of Israel. Esau's descendants are the Edomites. Okay, let me see. Yeah, now as far as verse 14, two brothers became the ancestors of two nations. The Edomites descended from Esau. The Israelites came from Jacob. Okay, what I was telling you. So the Edomites were relatives to the Israelites. Israel sent a brotherly message to Edom requesting passage through their land on the main road. It was a well-traveled trade route. Israel promised to stay on the road, though harmlessly bypassing Edom's fields, vineyards, and wells, not to mess with them at all, right? The Edomites refused, however, because they did not trust Israel's word. They were afraid of this great horde of people that would either attack them or devour their crops. In order to avoid conflict at this stage of their journey, the Israelites simply turned back and used a different route. Let me see here. Okay, let's continue. The death of Aaron. The whole community of Israel left Kadesh and arrived at Mount Hor, on the border of Edom. There the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Aaron is not going to enter the land which I promised to give to Israel. He is going to die, because the two of you rebelled against my command at Meribah. Take Aaron and his son Eleazar up Mount Hor, and there remove Aaron's priestly robes and put them on Eleazar. Aaron is going to die there." Moses did what the Lord had commanded. They went up Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community, and Moses removed Aaron's priestly robes and put them on Eleazar. There on the top of the mountain, Aaron died, and Moses and Eleazar came back down. The whole community learned that Aaron had died, and they all mourned for him for 30 days. So Aaron Aaron had fulfilled his duties and his purpose. He would now leave the earth and the living and enter the next life. The Lord said to Aaron that he would join his ancestors. It was a good perspective to keep, is that God is for God's people, death is not the only departing, but only a reunion. Someday we'll be reunited with all believers who have passed away. In verse 28, we read that Aaron died just before entering the promised land, which was punishment for joining in Moses' disobedience at the rock of Kadesh that we just read about. This was the first time in Israel's history that an existing high priest was replaced and a new one appointed. The priestly clothing was removed from Aaron and placed on his son Eleazar, following the commands recorded in the book of Leviticus. Okay, 21. When the Canaanite king of Arad in the southern part of Canaan heard that the Israelites were coming by way of Atharim, he attacked them and captured some of them. Then the Israelites made a vow to the Lord. If you will let us conquer these people, we will unconditionally dedicate them and their cities to you and will destroy them. The Lord heard them and helped them conquer the Canaanites. So the Israelites completely destroyed them and their cities and named the place Hormah. Okay, let me see. Verse 4. The Israelites left Mount Hor by the road that leads to the Gulf of Aqaba in order to go around the territory of Edom. But on the way, the people lost their patience and spoke against God and Moses. They complained, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to die in this desert, where there is no food or water? We cannot stand any more of this miserable food." So in Psalm 78, we learn that the sources of Israel's complaining was their spirits were not faithful to God. And 2, they refused to obey God's laws. And 3, they forgot the miracles God had done for them. So our complaining often has its roots in one of these thoughtless actions or attitudes. If we can deal with the causes of our complaining, it'll take hold and grow in our lives. Then the Lord sent poisonous snakes among the people, and many Israelites were bitten and died. God used poisonous snakes to punish the people for their unbelief and complaining. The wilderness where they traveled has various kinds of snakes. Some hide in the sand and attack without warning. The Israelites and the Egyptians had a great fear of snakes. A bite by a poisonous snake would mean in those days a very slow death with intense suffering. 7. The people came to Moses and said, "We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Now pray to the Lord to take these snakes away." So Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord told Moses to make a metal snake and put it on a pole, so that anyone who was bitten could look at it and be healed. So Moses made a bronze snake and put it on a pole. Anyone who had been bitten would look at the bronze snake and be healed. So when the bronze snake was hung on the pole, the Israelites did not know the fuller meaning Jesus Christ would bring to this event. You guys can read John chapter 3, verse 14 and 15 about what Jesus said about this. Basically like the snake was put on a pole and people who saw it were healed. Now it would mean that when Jesus Christ was put on the cross, people will look at him and be healed. So, like I said, Jesus was explained that just as the Israelites were healed of their sickness by looking at the snake on the pole, all believers today can be saved from sickness by looking to Jesus' death on the cross. It was not the snake that healed the people, but their belief that God could heal them. It was faith. This belief was demonstrated by their obedience to God's instructions. In the same way, we should continue to look at Christ for healing. But let's continue. 10. The Israelites moved on and camped at Oboth, After leaving that place, they camped at the ruins of Abarim in the wilderness east of Moabite territory. Then they camped at Zered Valley. From there, they moved again and camped on the north side of the Arnon River in the wilderness, which extends into Amorite territory. The Arnon was the border between the Moabites and the Amorites. That is why the book of the Lord's battle speaks of the town of Waheb in the area of Zuphah and the valleys, the Arnon River, and the slope of the valleys that extend to the town of Ar and towards the border of Moab. So, let's continue here. 16. From there they went on to a place called Wells, where the Lord said to Moses, "Bring the people together, and I will give them water." At that time the people of Israel sang this song: "Wells, produce your water, and we will greet it with a song." The well dug by princes and by leaders of the people, dug with a royal scepter and with their walking sticks. They moved from the wilderness to Matana, and from there they went on to Nahaliel, and from Nahaliel to Bamoth, and from Bamoth to the valley in the territory of the Moabites, below the top of Mount Pisgah, looking out over the desert. 21. Then the people of Israel sent messengers to the Amorite king Sihon to say, "Let us pass through your land. We and our cattle will not leave the road and go into your fields or vineyards, and we will not drink water from your wells. We will stay on the main road until we are out of your territory." But Sihon would not permit the people of Israel to pass through his territory. He gathered his army and went out to Jahaz in the wilderness and attacked the Israelites. But the Israelites killed many of the enemy in battle and occupied their land from the Arnon River north to the Jabbok, that is to the Ammonites, because the Ammonites' border was strongly defended. So the people of Israel captured all the Amorite cities, including Heshbon and all the surrounding towns, and settled in them. Heshbon was the capital city of the Amorite king Sihon, who had fought against the former king of Moab and had captured all his land as far as the Arnon River. That is why the poets sing, "Come to Heshbon, to King Sihon's city. We want to see it rebuilt and restored." Once from the city of Heshbon, Sihon's army went forth like a fire. It destroyed the city of Ar in Moab and devoured the hills of the upper Arnon. How terrible for you, people of Moab! You worshippers of Chemosh are brought to ruin. Your God let the men become refugees, and the women became captives of the Amorite king. But now their descendants are destroyed, all the way from Heshbon to Dibon, from Nashim to Nophah, near Medeba. So there's Chemosh, this guy that they're talking about, was the national god of Moab. We're going to read about him too a little bit later in this same book. He was the national god of Moab, who was worshipped as a god of war. This false god, however, was no help to this nation when they fought against Israel. Israel's God was stronger than any of Canaan's war gods. Now, there's some people may wonder, aren't these people also family of the Israelites? Some people feel that Moab, not Edom we already talked about, but some people feel that Moab, the Moabites and the Ammonites, remember, I'm kind of pausing because I want you guys to remember the names. The Moabites and the Ammonites were the descendants of Lot's two daughters, who had an incestuous affair with their father. Remember right after Sodom and Gomorrah? And so the descendants were the Moabites and the Ammonites. We're going to run into the Ammonites a little bit later. But the Moabites. So some people wonder, okay, if God did not allow them to attack the Edomites, why did God allow them to attack the Moabites? Well, because the Moabites attacked them first. So it was just a matter of the Israelites were just defending themselves. But that's not to mention the Moabites eventually turned out to be, remember Ruth, was a Moabite as well. But they're never really on very, very good terms with the Israelites from this point forward. Never on very, very good terms. All right, let's continue here. So the people of Israel settled in the territory of the Amorites, and Moses sent men to find the best way to attack the city of Jazer. The Israelites captured it and its surrounding towns and drove out the Amorites living there. Then the Israelites turned and took the road to Bashan, and King Og of Bashan marched out with his army to attack them at Edrei. The Amorites had nothing to do with the Israelites. They were just enemies, so there's no familiarity there at all. The Lord said to Moses, "Do not be afraid of him. I will give you victory over him, all his people, and his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, the Amorite king, who ruled at Heshbon." So the Israelites killed Og, his sons, and all his people, leaving no survivors, and then they occupied his land. So God assured Moses that Israel's enemy was conquered even before the battle began. God wants to give us victory over our enemies, which are usually problems related to sin rather than armed soldiers. But first, we must believe that He can help us. Second, we must trust Him to help us. And third, we must take the steps that He shows us. Chapter 22. The king of Moab sends for Balaam. The Israelites moved on and set up camp in the plains of Moab, east of the Jordan and opposite Jericho. When the king of Moab, Balak, son of Zippor, heard what the Israelites had done to the Amorites and how many Israelites there were, he and all his people became terrified. The Moabites said to the leaders of the Midianites, "This horde will soon destroy everything around us, like a bull eating the grass in pasture." So King Balak sent messengers to summon Balaam, son of Beor, who was at Pethor, near the Euphrates River, in the land of Amau. They brought him this message from Balak. Let's see. "I want you to know that a whole nation has come from Egypt. Its people are spreading out everywhere and threatening to take over our land. They outnumber us, so please come and put a curse on them for me. Then perhaps we'll be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. I know that when you pronounce a blessing, people are blessed. When you pronounce a curse, they are placed under a curse." Now, apparently Balaam was known for the effectiveness of the blessings and curses that he pronounced. The blessings and curses made by pagan sorcerers were common in the Old Testament times, and sorcerers who spoke them were taught to have influence with the gods. For this reason, the king of Moab wanted Balaam to use his apparent power to place a curse on Israel, hoping that by magic the God of Israel would turn against his people. Neither Balaam nor Balak had any idea about the God that they were dealing with. So people wonder, why would God speak through a sorcerer named Balaam? God wanted to give a message to the Moabites, and they had already chosen to employ Balaam. So Balaam was available for God to use, much as God had used the wicked Pharaoh to accomplish his will in Egypt. Balaam entered into his prophetic role seriously, but his heart was mixed. He had some knowledge of God, but not enough to forsake his magic and turn wholeheartedly to God. Although this story leads us to believe he turned completely to God, later passages in the Bible shows us that Balaam could not resist the tempting pull of money. So we're going to read a little bit more about that a little later here. Let's go to the next verse. So the Moabite and Midianite leaders took with them the payment for the curse. They went to Balaam and gave him Balak's message. Balaam said to them, "Spend the night here, and tomorrow I will report to you whatever the Lord tells me." So the Moabite leaders stayed with Balaam. God came to Balaam and asked, who are these people that are staying with you? So why would God speak through Balaam? We found out already, but God is going to use him. Like we just a little while ago, just like he used Pharaoh, God's going to use Balaam to glorify his own name. He answered, King Balak of Moab has sent them to tell me that a people who came from Egypt has spread out over the whole land. He wants me to curse them for him, so that he can fight them and drive them out. God said to Balaam, Do not go with them, and do not put a curse on the people of Israel, because they have my blessing. The next morning Balaam went to Balak's messengers and said, Go back home. The Lord has refused to let me go with you. So they returned to Balak and told him that Balaam had refused to come with them. Then Balak sent a larger number of leaders who were more important than the first. They went to Balaam and gave him this message from Balak. Please don't let anything prevent you from coming to me. I will reward you richly and do anything you say. Please come and curse these people for me. Let's see. Let me get my notes. There's something here that I'm going to want to mention in a little bit. Okay. Hold on, please. 22. Yeah, let's see. Hold on, please. I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, something ironic that I really should mention. Remember I told you about the Moabites and the Ammonites being kind of family members, right? Descendants of Lot. Well, I want to show you something a little more about this. Let's see. Let me bring out another Bible. I have to share something with you, okay? Deuteronomy chapter 2. Now, if you guys don't know, Deuteronomy is a book after Numbers. It's basically the last book of the Torah, right? It's like a recap that Moses told the new generation of people that were about to enter the promised land, right? So they knew everything. Now, here in chapter 2 of Deuteronomy, Moses is retelling this story. Israel wanders in the desert, right? I don't have to read the whole thing, but look at verse 9. This is Moses talking. Then the Lord said to me, Do not attack the Moabites. Do not even make them angry. If you do, they will go to war against you. I will not give you any part of their land. I have given Moab to the people in the family line of Lot. I've given it to them as their own. Remember I was telling you that the Moabites and the Ammonites is a incestuous relationship between Lot's daughters and him. It wasn't a pretty situation, but nevertheless, they were supposed to be left alone. They had no fear because technically they were relatives of the Israelites, but the Moabites attacked Israel. So that's why Israel defended themselves. Now, there's something else that I wanted to mention about this. Now, 22, 22. Okay. If we look at 11, I don't want to go too much back and forth, but there's something ironic about this. 11:31. Let me see. But the quail, yes. Let me continue. I'll share. Let's finish with the story, Balaam. Then it'll all make sense because I don't want to ruin us. I don't want to ruin this for you guys. So Okay, so let's continue from here. Let's see here. Yeah, the reason I'm kind of because something's going to come up right now. In fact, I'll tell you what will come up. The Lord just told Balaam not to go with the people, right? He told him, don't go with them, right? Then Balak sends some more messengers back sometime later. Come on, curse these people, curse these people. And Balaam tells the messengers, wait here overnight. I'll see what the Lord tells me in the morning. So the Lord had already spoken to him, had already spoken to him. So why would Balaam ask the Lord again if he knew the Lord's answer? Now, what throws a lot of people off is that the second time God says, okay, go, but do only what I tell you to do, right? So people would assume that, oh, so God is okay, with Balaam going. But it was a test from the Lord. I'm trying to find a better way to say it. This was a test of the Lord. Um, it appears that in both cases, the Lord is testing. He tests people by giving them what they want in order to see if they will show some restraint. So, in accordance with what they know to be right. So, Balaam was already told not to go to curse these people. God told him, these are my people. I have blessed them. So then why would Balaam ask the Lord the second time? It's basically letting him get into more trouble himself. It's like I always say, you give somebody a piece of rope, they'll end up hanging themselves. So let's read about that now. The next morning, no, let's see. Sorry. Okay. Then Balak sent a larger number of leaders who were more important than the first. They went to Balaam and gave him this message from Balak. Please don't let anything prevent you from coming to me. I will reward you richly and do anything you say. Please come and curse these people for me. But Balaam answered, even if Balak gave me all the silver and gold in his palace, I could not disobey the command of the Lord, my God, even the smallest matter. But please spend the night as the others did, so that I may learn whether or not the Lord has something else to tell me. That night God came to Balaam and said, if these men have come to ask you to go with them, get ready and go, but do only what I tell you. So the next morning Balaam saddled his donkey and went with the Moabite leaders. God was angry that Balaam was going. And as Balaam was riding along on his donkey, accompanied by his two servants, the angel of the Lord stood in the road to bar his way. When the donkey saw the angel standing there holding a sword, it left the road and turned into the fields. Balaam beat the donkey and brought it back onto the road. Then the angel stood where the road narrowed between two vineyards and had a stone wall on each side. When the donkey saw the angel, it moved over against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against it. Again, Balaam beat the donkey. Once more, the angel moved ahead. He stood in a narrow place where there was no room at all to pass on either side. This time, when the donkey saw the angel, it lay down. Balaam lost his temper and began to beat the donkey with his stick. Then the Lord gave the donkey the power of speech, and it said to Balaam, what have I done to you? Why have you beaten me these 3 times? Balaam answered, because you have made a fool of me. If I had a sword, I would destroy you. The donkey replied, am I not the same donkey on which you have ridden all your life? Have I not treated you like this before? No, he answered. Then the Lord let Balaam see the angel standing there with his sword, and Balaam threw himself face downward on the ground. The angel demanded, why have you beaten your donkey 3 times like this? I have come to bar your way because you should not be making this journey. But your donkey saw me and turned aside 3 times. If it hadn't, I would have destroyed you and spared your donkey. Balaam replied, I have sinned. I did not know that you were standing in the road to oppose me. But now, if you think it is wrong for me to go on, I will return home. But the angel said, Go on with these men, but say only what I tell you to say. So Balaam went on with them. Balak welcomes Balaam. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went to meet him at Ar, a city on the Arnon River, at the border of Moab. Balak said to him, "Why didn't you come when I sent for you the first time? Did you think I wasn't able to reward you enough?" Balaam answered, "I came, didn't I? But now what power do I have? I can only say what God tells me to say." So Balaam went with Balak to the town of Huzoth, where Balak slaughtered cattle and sheep and gave some of the meat to Balaam and the leaders who were with him. Amen. So basically, Balaam should have taken God's first no as the final answer. Okay, let me see. Yeah, we'll read one more. Hold on, please. Okay, verse 1. The next morning, Balak took Balaam up to Bamoth Baal, from where Balaam could see a part of the people of Israel. He said to Balak, "Build 7 altars here for me, and bring me 7 bulls and 7 rams." Balak did as he was told, and he and Balaam offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Stand here by your burnt offering, while I go to see whether or not the Lord will meet me. I will tell you whatever he reveals to me." So he went alone to the top of a hill. 4. And God met him. Balaam said to him, "I have built the 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram on each." The Lord told Balaam what to say and sent him back to Balak to give him his message. So he went back and found Balak still standing by his burnt offering with all the leaders of Moab. So instead of offering a sacrifice to the local gods whom Balak would normally worship, Balaam instructed Balak to offer burnt offerings to the Lord, the God of Israel. Balak, and perhaps even Balaam, were trying to appease the Lord with an offering to get what he wanted in return, a curse against God's people. Now, we sometimes do similar things when we attempt to give something to God, like an extra offering, a service project, more time to spend in devotions to try to get what we want from Him. God cannot be bought with our offerings, good works, or sacrificial actions. God cannot be manipulated into doing anything for us against His will. So let's continue. 7. Balaam uttered this prophecy. "Balak, king of Moab, has brought me from Syria, from the eastern mountains. Come speak for me," he said. "Put a curse on the people of Israel." "How can I curse what God has not cursed, or speak of doom when the Lord has not? From the high rocks I can see them. I can watch them from the hills. They are a nation that lives alone. They know they are blessed more than other nations. The descendants of Israel are like the dust. There are too many of them to be counted. Let me end my days like one of God's people. Let me die in peace like the righteous." Then Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I brought you here to curse my enemies, but all you have done is bless them." He answered, "I can say only what the Lord tells me to say." Then Balak said to Balaam, "Come with me to another place from which you can see only some of the Israelites. Curse them for me from there." He took him to the field of Zovim on top of Mount Pisgah. There also he built 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram on each of them. Balaam said to Balak, "Stand here by your burnt offering, and I will meet God over there." The Lord met Balaam, told him what to say, and sent him back to Balak to give him his message. So he went back and found Balak still standing by his burnt offering with the leaders of Moab. Balak asked what the Lord had said, and Balaam uttered this prophecy. "Come, Balak, son of Zippor, and listen to what I have to say. God is not like people who lie. He is not a human who changes his mind. Whatever he promises, he does. He speaks and it is done. I have been instructed to bless, and when God blesses, I cannot call it back. I foresee the Israel's future will bring her no misfortune or trouble." The Lord their God is with them. They proclaim that he is their king. God has brought them out of Egypt. He fights for them like a wild ox. There is no magic charm, no witchcraft that can be used against the nation of Israel. Now people will say about Israel, look what God has done. The nation of Israel is like a mighty lion. It doesn't rest until it has torn and devoured, until it has drunk the blood of those it has killed. Then Balak said to Balaam, you refuse to curse the people of Israel, but at least do not bless them. Balaam answered, didn't I tell you that I can only do everything the Lord told me? Balaam's third prophecy. Balak said, come with me, and I will take you to another place. Perhaps God will be willing to let you curse them for me from there. Balak took Balaam to several places to try to entice him to curse the Israelites. He thought that a change of scenery might help change Balaam's mind, but changing locations will not change God's will, and Balaam seemed aware of this. Behind Balak's request was probably the pagan assumption that gods were thought to have only regional control. Therefore, Balaam would no longer have to obey God if he was out of God's jurisdiction. But Balak's problem had nothing to do with his location. He apparently did not understand that God's sovereignty has no limits. Balak's problem would stay with him regardless of where he took Balaam. Balaam's third prophecy. Balak said, let's read this again. Come with me, and I will take you to another place. Perhaps God will be willing to let you curse them for me there. So he took Balaam to the top of Mount Peor, overlooking the desert. Balaam said to him, build 7 altars for me here, and bring me 7 bulls and 7 rams. Balak did as he was told, and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Amen. All right. I think we're done for right now.